Hello, everyone. Tracie here, your resident business rebel, and you're listening to Cocktails, Coffee, and Conversations podcast, the show that lets true stories and insider secrets of digital entrepreneur life unfold. Our business world is growing, and as an online business coach and digital product creator, I believe you didn't become an entrepreneur to grin and bear your way through business. So I'll be your guide as we drop in on coaching calls, have intimate sit downs with online personalities you love, and discuss ideas, opportunities, and strategies circulating our online world. So pop in your earbuds, tap follow, and join me as I demystify this thing called business.
I mean, I'm in this messy state of business where it looks good on paper, it looks good on Instagram, but it's this growth stage of business where you're really dialing it. Okay, I've proven the model. I've gotten through the startup. I have a successful course. I've had some six-figure launches. Now it's dialing in systems, processes, teams, and really figuring out what's working, what's not, what do we concentrate our efforts in so we can increase profits. I know where I'm going with it. I'm certain it will work out, but it's not quite so sexy as it looks like.
Welcome in, everyone. Today, I am joined by Emily Reagan of Unicorns Unite fame, and we're not holding anything back in this episode as we dive into the evolution of her business, from client work to focusing on mentorship and coaching, and we cover the importance of high-touch onboarding and strategies for sustainable business growth. What does it mean to have a membership and have a course and to really see people grow in their careers? But who is Emily, you may be asking? She's the founder of the Unicorn Digital Marketing Assistant School and Digital Marketers Work Group. And I might add that she's the coiner of the name Digital Marketing Assistant. But her mission is to help high-achieving, smarty-pants women experience flexibility, creativity, and financial success as work-from-home marketing assistants and specialists. And you're about to hear all about her journey. Let's drop in on our conversation. So welcome in, Emily. I'm happy that you are here.
I'm excited to be here, and congratulations on the new podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And we are kind of, we're riding a little high right now because we just got done in your program where I was guest coaching. And that's one of my favorite things to do. So we're all just all chatty and all lively, living it up, doing the things. But now it's your turn to be the one talking instead of me. So I like that.
Yeah, thanks for coming in my group. I realized, I can tap into some of my friends and I don't have to have all the pressure on me to teach all of the marketing in my group. And that has given me a lot of freedom when I let go of that pressure. And I know you've had guests talk about it, but I just want to say thank you because it let me kind of just sit back the last hour and play host.
I love it. And for me, it's like to have that chance to kind of geek out on sales messaging and kind of, I mean, for all of our friends that are human design nerds, we're always like, one of my things is that set the record straight channel line thingy, whatever. So it fits nicely in with me, right? It's like I have that chance to kind of help people feel that sense of, oh, that's why that happens. And oh, okay, now I feel like I can do something. So I love guest coaching, but I know with you, like with what you have, because you have this big program that you do, but then you also have this separate, do you call it like a membership or do you call it like an add-on? Like how do you distinguish these different pieces that you have for people?
So it's kind of fun after working with a lot of different clients and seeing how they set up their digital products. I knew I wanted a course that went to a membership.
Mm.
And I knew I wanted a back end membership. And so I created my course that teaches marketing assistants the services and marketing skills that helps them start a business. And then I offer this continuing retainer to work with me and keep getting the jobs and keep advancing in their marketing because I knew it just didn't ever end. And so I called it the VA Club at the time. But I knew this because I had quite a few clients who were in Stu McLaren's world. And so I had gone to his membership. I saw the possibilities of membership. I didn't see it for myself until someone else pointed it out. Like, it's like how business works, right? I'm like doing it for everyone else, but unable to see the possibility for myself when it came to membership. But I realized I didn't quite have the volume with the course. And I really only had the capacity to launch so many times a year. Like right now it's once. So I
Yeah.
did open it up. So it is it's no longer closed in the sense of other people can get into it who haven't taken the course, but now I vet people. So I kind of made it a little harder. It's application, it's vetted, so I can keep up the quality. But at least I know that people who've gone through my course are at a certain level. Because I saw this happen in my client's business. People were coming into the membership very confused,
Yep.
not sure where to start. And so that's how I kind of evolved that offering, and it works now, and now I'm finally able to grow it. It's finally growing.
So that's interesting because you were seeing examples of people who had started out with aspirations of back end businesses, but for whatever reason, they were almost making them either separate offers or like sideline memberships, and it was like, oh no, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's exactly it, yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing when you take your time. Maybe I'm quite a fast decision maker, but I got to kinda watch how other people set it up, and I also know, like, the pain it is to set up the tech and redo things. I've had so many clients redo their tech stack that I try to be smart about it, and that's
Mhm.
another thing I did is go all in with Kajabi at the beginning. Although now I've piecemealed things out. I did add Active Campaign, but just to keep it easy, I went all in, and it was a little bit scary because I wasn't really making money doing this yet, but I knew it would hold my butt to the fire if I had a big old Kajabi bill, and it would motivate me. So I did the annual, and my very first launch covered that cost. And it just felt like I was on top of the world. I proved the model. It wasn't about profit, it was about covering my Kajabi bill.
Yes. Yeah, and that is such a true part, right? Because one of the things that I talk about a lot is cost buildups and how like it's not just about, oh gee, what should I charge for things, and then getting these range of opinions and things, but like what does your back end, what does your operations, and what does your finance actually do, right? So without knowing all of that stuff, like you found this anchor, and you turn that into a goal, and it's like, if I could just do this one thing, if I could just make this one annual thing, then it'll all be worth it. But then from there it's grown, right? And it's turned into so much more, and I love that. And then the lessons that you've learned since then.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the membership, I didn't realize how much I don't wanna say work, that sounds so dumb, so cliche, but there's just a lot of back end things happening with a membership, and I really went into it naively, and it has taken a good year or 2 for me to figure out what makes sense for my business. And I don't even know if I've told you this, Tracie, but I have decided to close the doors on the low monthly rate, because I'm tired of the dunning process. I'm tired of people quitting. I'm tired of people, buying for a month and then leaving. And I tried the 3 months, minimum
Commitment.
commitment at the beginning. And I'm like, you know what? I'm at this baller level of my business where I want people all in, and I'm not messing around. So I'm switching. I just closed the doors. We had about 30 new members. And next time we open, it'll be annual dues only. And so kind of saying like, screw Stu and his advice. Like this turned into like the reoccurring monthly income, but it is more of, it's turned into something else and something bigger. And I need the price to reflect that. And I need the commitment level to reflect that if I'm going to support these people. So yeah, it's exciting and
It
scary. I'm
is.
so scary. I'm like, what if it's too high? But I got to look at my cost of goods, to deliver.
You do, you do. Yes, and that's where, like you can separate this concept of like MRR, which means monthly recurring revenue for everybody listening, where you can separate this idea of, what should I charge for this certain idea versus what is accessible to the people, right?
Hmm.
So they are not the same concept. The ultimate fee of your offer is not the same thing as accessibility. So
Yeah.
accessibility comes from the idea of payment plans, of scholarships, of what do we have in there as terms of like ROI and getting things back, and what is our customer service and our commitment and all of these kinds of ways that we can support each other and be there, versus saying I don't ever want something that costs over $400 because I'm afraid nobody can afford it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and for so long, my price was 47 a month. It's
There you
actually
go.
started at, like,
See?
29, but it was at
Yeah.
47 forever, and I was so dragging my feet on this. And that part of me just wanted it to be a no-brainer price. I knew if you
Mhm.
were working as a new marketing assistant right out of my program, charging
Mm.
$25 an hour was easy, doable, completely realistic. And so that would be 2 hours of client work a month. And so I kind of had that price point in my head and I was like hell bent and stuck on it. But when I looked at the numbers, the support we're bringing, the quality of support we're bringing, the teammates I'm paying to help me, I was like, I can't sustain this. It's
Right.
not, and it's not even about like, it is about profit. But I looked at my friend, one of my friends has a membership at 97 and she's making more and she's sitting in a less stressed position because she just has some of that profit padding. And I was like, I don't
Mhm.
have that. And I'm working doubly as hard to keep people. I'm like, this is not working for me.
Yes. Yeah, exactly, right. And people don't want well, I mean, you never need to feel guilty for profit, right? Cuz profit is not
Yeah.
a bad word. The things that we do with profit, I mean, they go back into business, they go back into community, right? They don't always line our own individual coffers. Yeah? So profit, especially at our size of business, is not the same thing as it is if we're looking at, the big 5 corporations internationally, even though it has the same word and it's the same bottom line math, we don't do the same thing with it, right? So most of the time, if you have one offer that makes a profit, there's a good 70-80% that quote unquote profit for that one offer is still going to get eaten back up and invested in the rest of the business in order to help everything else. So it's still
Yep.
not company profit.
Yes.
It is offer profit. And that's why you have to look at each of your offers individually as well as the totality of it. Right. And it's like, is this sustainable? Does this work as my entire offer suite? And how will all of this be? Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, like if you're looking at your whole cost buildup and all the things that are running into it, plus what you need, not just for this individual offer, but for your business as a whole, and to keep growing your impact and to keep growing all the things that you're needing to do, including handling things for your family, right? And paying, yourself, covering your own individual costs as well as any staff that you have. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
it's not a case of, oh, I need this bright, shiny, quote unquote marketing buzzword no brainer price. It becomes what is the actual real price that one needs to be? And then how can I look at the various ways to make it accessible for someone?
I'm glad you said that because I had somebody said this and I don't think they meant ill by it, but they're like, "Oh, I see what you're doing." And I ran the math on it. So, yeah, I have about 190 members, not quite 200. So you do the math on 47. Well, not everyone's paying 47. There's some OGs grandfathered in
Mhm.
at another price. There's some people in it for free because they take my course and then they get 3 months to continue building their business. But
Yep.
you just run the math and you're like, "Oh, that's not so bad." But it's actually in the red of my operating expenses. It does
Yep.
not cover my monthly operating expenses. I mean, the goal is to double it and get there. But right now, it is just like nipping away at some of those operating costs. And where I cover my butt is with launching my course. Like
Yep.
that's going to like kind of keep me in the black. But you hit on the nail right there. I need to be able to pay myself more. I mean, I'm in this messy state of business where it looks good on paper, it looks good on Instagram, but it's this growth stage of business where you're really dialing it. Okay, I've proven the model. I've gotten through the startup. I have a successful course. I've had some six-figure launches. Now it's dialing in systems, processes, teams, and really figuring out what's working, what's not, what do we concentrate our efforts in so we can increase profit. So I'm in the stage where profit is low. It sucks, but I also have a vision I'm going to get out of it. Like I know where I'm
Yeah.
going with it. I'm certain it will work out, but it's not quite so sexy as it looks like. Oh, I mean, sometimes Tracie, I'm like, should I just go back and be a service provider? I think it would be so much easier right now. Because I mean, for years, I kind of straddled a lot of client work to get this going. Like I'm on
Mhm.
year 4 of my business. So the first 3 years, I was burning the candle at both ends, doing both. Then I kind of started leaning more into mentorship and coaching. I still do some client work because it lights me up and it keeps me relevant. But it's just been this like process. It didn't just like flip the switch and it all just turned on and all the profit switched to this side of the books. No, no, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is that the reality behind it, right? Because we're like, oh, this is going to be so great and all these things are going to happen. And then it's like, oh, then the day to day and the day to day and the day to day. And we almost feel like we're doing something wrong. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, you're not. That is actually the realities of growing a business, especially at our size, because we don't have access to capital. So
right.
not only do we not have access to capital, so under the definitions of business in the we're in the US, you and me, not all of my guests are, but you and I are. We are considered small business. Well, the amount that the range that goes to is absolutely laughable. So I actually call us micro businesses to put it into reality that we can't just like go to the bank and actually get capital. There's not like angel investors. There are not these kind of things for us. So for the most part, it runs off of partner money, off of debt, right? And off of us doing other things while trying to do this.
Yes, like
Yeah.
client work paid for the course is basically
Exactly.
the reality
Exactly.
of it.
Yes. Yeah. Or keeping some, finger in the pie of a corporate or in some other kind of, like for you, it was client, like keeping some other stream of either income if it's for, like a corporate or for revenue if it's a different business stream, as well as, right, while we're trying to build these things. And as you said, like on Instagram or on whatever platform, those kind of things often don't get talked about as often. So when we are in this sitting in our grand offices, which basically means in our homes by ourselves, we're feeling like, oh gosh, are we doing this right? Are these things really going on? How are these people buying the tech? And oh my goodness, I need a new laptop. How am I even going to do that? How am I going to buy yet another piece of software? How, right? And we get kind of like sold these ideas and these concepts that it can be so easy and that there's such a small startup cost to these businesses. And there
Yeah,
is, but only in relation to the alternative, like brick and mortar. But bricks and
right.
mortar, where you can get loans from banks, and bricks and mortar, where you can do other things that we don't have access to. Right.
Yeah,
So everything that you did was very business smart. You were doing the kind of stuff to make the numbers work, to tick in until you got to your human capacity where you had to let some things go, right? Now, a lot of people online would be looking at it and being like, oh my gosh, you're ready to scale. No, you're not, right?
I
Scaling
laugh.
sounds so sexy, but that's actually what you do after you have a proven profitable model that you're now ready to multiply. Scaling is exponential. And you don't do exponential while you're still running a deficit. You don't do that while you're still like figuring things out and while you're still working through it. Right. But
Yeah,
that's not what gets the clicks and the likes and the comments and the what is it? DM me this one word kind of thing that goes around right now.
no,
It's like, no, it's like we're not ready for that. And most of the time people aren't until after year 5. Oh my gosh, don't tell me I have to wait till 5. I'm online. This is supposed to be easy. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be laptops on the beach and climbing mountains and doing all the stuff. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Right?
oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, and for some reason, memberships really light my fire there and make me a little angry, maybe because I had a lot of Stu's people who would h hire me early on to help with their memberships. I'm like, "You have no audience, you have no track record, no reputation, no credibility, but you heard about this one guy who had this one Orchid membership and made, hundreds of thousands." I love that you know who I'm talking about. And I mean, literally, like they're eating it up with a spoon, and then they launch
Yeah,
this membership, and then they get 8 people, and then those 8 people dwindle. And then memberships are hard to
they are.
continually produce content. And that's why I said I had to kind of reach into some friends and have them help me. I had to hire a work group manager who could do some of the live calls without me because I felt so tied to Zoom. But the membership model really pisses me off. I think it's complementary. I think
Yes.
I mean, I hear Taylor Swift in my head right now. Like, I'm building something and I'm okay with it. And it's a little bit at a loss right now, but I know where it's going and what it's capable of. And I'm also in this messy middle area where I'm dialing in the process and I am making sure our capacity can handle it because we couldn't before. We were broken. Even though I know all about onboarding, it's not all right. And it's actually fun to dial it all in. but I can't just spend all of my time doing that. I need help because
Yep.
I do have other channels. So to bring it back, I think a membership is a great complementary revenue stream, but the people who go all in with it, I'm like, good luck to you. Like, I just don't see it as this like quick overnight thing that's going to happen.
Like anything, entrepreneurship is experimenting, right? So they're fun things to try, but it really has to be the market fit. It really has to be, this is the kind of thing that I'm working towards. So this is going to match, right? And is it a model that you can apply to anything? Technically, yes. Should you? That's where the nuances come in. And that's where we have to look at the individual and the capacity and the team and the longevity, and what are those ultimate goals, because what you have, I bet you it's something that works really well and is really fun, but I bet a reframe away from this word, especially now that you have like all these like emotional tensions tied to it, I bet it would probably feel very freeing and being like, yeah, that's what mine is. And I mean, just already you call it a work group,
Yeah.
right? So that already helps, you
It
know
does, and I don't always call it that, a membership, but I think I almost like my old name, the club, like, it's a little bit
Mhm.
of a club, and I don't mean like the country club, but it's like the club of people who are all doing the same thing. We wanna go play tennis together, and we wanna nerd out on marketing, so you're right, it does feel good, but I'll tell you just the mind games that have gone through my head in making this change. It's like you almost know too much, and then you start to analyze it, and I'm a quick decision maker, but I also know once I change the price, I can't flip-flop and I can't go back
Mhm.
down. And so every time I've increased the price, even if it was $10, I was really careful with that decision and how would it affect my community. But there's so much that has changed in the last 4 years about what VAs are, how that whole buyer's journey we just talked about. Like people are very aware, and VAs have been around for a while where they're also growing and evolving and they need different things. And so it's kind of okay to just go with it. And I think
Mhm.
my people are more educated and more they're ready for this now. Maybe not 4 years ago when it was also new.
Yeah, yeah, it's called buyer sophistication, right? And market sophistication. That is the
Yes.
awareness that comes from these kind of things existing and having gone on, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we're caught up and we know there might be some bits that are new. There might be some people that are still kind of going, wait, what? But there's enough kind of crowdsourced knowledge and information that
Mhm.
everything is kind of that next notch up, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, okay. So what do we have here? What is now the need of the human? Now let me figure out, what should I, what do I want to actually supply for them, right?
Yeah.
And so is this something that I want to keep doing, that I have the capacity for, or should I just kind of bless it, release it, and move on?
Yeah, and I thought about that. I really did. I really was
Yeah.
like, "Do I need to kill this and kill my darling?" And I was there. I've been there a few times looking at the numbers. So we'll see. I mean, who knows? Right now, those are my favorite people to work with.
Hmm.
And what I have found, I've almost gone backward, Tracy. I went from being a service provider, micro agency owner, course creator, right? I'm almost circling back to coaching. And I was just telling someone the other day, I almost wish I had started with coaching, but I wouldn't change anything about my journey. But that's what I'm finding people need the most right now. Yes, they
Hmm.
get in, they like the community, they like the trainings, but you cannot deny the fact that people need eyes on their stuff.
Hmm.
Just like you come into my program and teach discovery calls. And, we just talked about the work with me pages. People need eyes and feedback. And the community can do some of that. There are people who will take time out to respond and engage with each other. So now I'm starting to go back and add more of me back to it. I got to figure out the sustainable way. So
Yeah.
how can I do that where they get what they need and I'm not taxed out and feeling responsible for everything, because that was kind of the point. The sexy part of a low membership was I don't really have to be involved, and
Yeah.
that's just not what my people need right now. And so, I mean, I could play with different tiers and price points and whatever, but I also want to keep things very simple.
Right, right, and again, like what's wrapped into accessibility goes beyond price. It goes into transparency. It goes into bringing people with you. It goes into honoring loyalty, right? And it goes into the responsibility as the seller of being like, okay, this is where I am with you and what I'm helping you with, and the kind of like dreams, aspirations, ROI that It's your responsibility to implement, but I'm going to give you the information to do it, right? So it's like this is where you need to take responsibility and say, "Hey, I need help, but these are all the places that we're going to be here for help." Yeah? Like all of that gets wrapped up into that. So that
Yeah.
way people very much know what they're signing up for and what does spending this money mean. So they're not just hanging their hat on the by the end of this, you'll be able to do blah, 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 and rainbows and kittens and sunshine, and all these things are going to happen, right? May- maybe, and that's also where the realities and testimonials come in. And we
Mhm.
don't like I always tell like my clients like don't judge testimonials because there's different places, there's different paths on a journey. So how somebody feels the moment they buy is just as good of a testimonial as somebody year 5, year 3, month 2, month 1, right? And the more of that feedback can also help you with your process to see, wait, where do we drag, where do we lag, where do we have something that we need to dip into and hold on to, as well as who are the people that are most likely to get the results, what work are they doing, what outlook do they have, what are they going after and working towards, and how do we match that with what we're doing, right? Because
Yeah.
that's that messaging piece of connecting what you are willing and able to supply with the people who are willing and able to do. And when you find that magic little kismet, that's when it all kind of comes together, right? So as the seller, we have that responsibility and transparency to make sure all of that is there for all the live events that we do and on our message, like our sales messaging, and talked about in content where we're shouting out the people who've done the case studies. It's like, okay, but these were the things that they did. This was how they implemented all the work that we provided them, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, you could charge $1,000 or you could charge $1. Like the price matters in terms of your back end finance part, but
Mhm.
communication level and the what they're signing up for and what to expect, all of that carries more weight as far as who can, how do they like sign up for things, and that
Yeah.
that gives you more bandwidth for support, for scholarships if you want to do them, for the creating like grants and stuff like that, and for applying for the ones that are out there, right? As a woman owned business, and and saying, I mean, primarily the people who come into your world are as well. So it's like, what's out there, what can we apply for, what can we help to lift up the community and bring that out there. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's so interesting. Right now, we're getting a lot, we're just onboarded some new unicorns. I have quite a few people saying, you've created a special community. I've never seen anything like this. And yet, I also have people who will join who just want the jobs and they
mhm.
don't engage, they don't get active, they don't understand it. The truer power, the thing you really need to grow your service business is the network,
Yeah.
right? And like some people just will never get it. And then I don't know, it's just been so interesting. And from a marketing angle, for me, it's hard to sell community, probably because I didn't know I really needed it back then, but I sure see the power now,
Yeah.
right? And I know my natural ability to connect as a military child and a military spouse. I've always had that ability to go into new networks and connect. Like I just took that for granted. And so it's just, I don't know, it's just very interesting. I'm not sure where I'm going here right now, but I have had people never get active, never get involved. And then at some point they're disappointed,
Mhm.
not by the numbers, but I'm like, well, I know why you're not getting results because nobody knows who you are. We're not referring you. And so many of the wins are from people referring each other, getting inside another business, a 7-figure business, and turning out and hiring a couple more unicorns and,
Yeah.
referring them. So it's like, oh my gosh. But I also have gotten to this level, Tracie, where I don't need to convince them,
No,
you
no,
know?
no, and it's never our job to convince anybody, right? Our job is to give people enough information to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
And so instead, the messaging becomes, this isn't a paid job board. This
Yeah.
is an illustration of the power of community. Like you are here to get information, to grow as who you are, to find places to work with and people to work with, but also to be able to refer out and to refer in. It's to find synergies and to say, oh, that's not what I want to do, but I know somebody who does. Or, oh, I love
Mhm.
doing this, but I need help. I know somebody I can trust, and I know the level that they have been trained and skilled up. So I can bring this person, even if I haven't met them beyond maybe, a coffee date or talking to them randomly in a group training. But I know that we at least have this base level of connection point, right?
Yes.
Because it's not a paid job board. You can have those. I mean, hell, you could definitely have one of those for 20 bucks a month where they just basically get access to a database. And that is way different. That is
Yeah.
way different than the kind of thing where you're bringing in guest coaches, where you're talking about leveling up your skills, where you are making personal introductions, where you're having the business who's looking for stuff fill out an application, as well as the humans who are coming in there filling out applications.
Yeah. I am not trying to be Upwork. Like, that is not my job. I
Right?
also have chose not to be hiring manager. I have
Yeah.
seen hiring managers get paid $5,000 to go be a headhunter and just come into my group, dip in there, and pull somebody out. And I'm like, I know that could be its own thing. And that is not a business I'm interested in running. And so that can be money I've left on the table. But at least I feel good about the pool of people I've collected and that I'm
Mhm.
offering. And I really care that they do their best and know more than the average VA does. So they are exceptional. I don't know. I just have this like deep sense of pride when it comes to work and
Mhm.
fun. It's fun to
Yeah.
connect the dots, grow and learn and nerd out and see marketing in the wild. I mean, that's why we're here talking on the podcast.
Right? And it's not money that you've left on the table. It's a table that you never bothered to sit at.
Ooh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Like, you intentionally walked right past it,
Yeah,
right?
that's like the cool girls table. I'm like, no thanks. I'm gonna go over here
Yeah,
to
right,
the
and there's
misfit
nothing
table.
wrong with that. Yeah, yeah. It's you and your wisdom going, "That's not for me." Great, have all the fun you want over there. I'm still going this way.
Yeah, and I'm still so happy to connect, you know? Like,
Mhm.
I get so much pride when they connect with somebody and find decent human to come work in their business.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Feels
that works that way, So as you've been going through this whole evolution and where it started, and at least releasing the majority of the client work, right? Because you still keep a little bit of, has it changed your concepts of online business, or of, what a lot of people think of as freedom, or any of that kind of stuff? Because I mean, you've been doing this kind of thing for a long time. Like, you started doing like work at home and freelancing and that way before doing like this online stuff.
Yeah, I was really putzing around though for years, very ignorant, which I was off having babies, moving around. It's cool. And now I have to say, where I've grown the most is doing the scary thing, pulling out of a lot of the retainer work. Now I
Mhm.
do projects. So there's a difference. There's a freedom
Okay.
to say
Yep.
yes and no. And I kind of think in terms of trimesters, and the summer is just a trimester. I don't need to be working. I have
Mhm.
4 children. I want to have fun with the kids. I am a very involved mom. We're very sporty. Like, I just don't want to be working and spending my time on Zoom. So I pulled out of the client work, and that was so scary to lose that base income that covered my expenses. But like, I have been paying myself peanuts. Like, let's just be real. I have been paying myself peanuts this whole time as I'm growing and establishing, because I didn't have the capital that you talked about. It's reinvesting back in myself, but I'm finally getting to this place where it's paying off. I
Mhm.
mean, and I know I'm going to get there, but I have learned the most pulling out of that client work, going all in with my course, kind of stops self sabotaging in a way by going all in, but also by turning around and contracting with other service providers to help me. I've actually grown the most, because that's just something I had been in other people's businesses, but I have never been the client. And
Mhm.
it's a whole different viewpoint from here. And it has, challenged me to grow, to self-examine. I know I'm not perfect. I can micromanage sometimes and want things perfect, but I'm learning a lot, and it actually gives me really good content and insight that I can pass on to my own assistant. So did I even answer your question? I kind of went off on a little tangent right there.
No, I mean, we're talking about how has your perspective and your current life, like, how has that even,
Yeah.
changed, right? As the business has evolved, and it is like now you are becoming the client.
Yeah, and that
Right.
definition of business owner versus maybe entrepreneur who's really in the weeds starting, I feel more like a business owner now,
Mhm.
which we are trying to nail some things down. I'm working with my friend Ange to implement clockwork and be
Mhm.
a little bit more systematic. I feel like we're almost there with some things. I've been able to kind of pull out of some of the business because I have made some good hires and I'm almost there. But I've really learned to give people the autonomy, and I really want to empower people to do their job. Just sometimes things are still stuck in my brain. Not everything is an SOP yet, and not everything needs to be an SOP. There are some things that I really love giving strategy and saying, this is what I envision, now go do it. But sometimes people need a little more context to like what I want. And the process of delegating is being refined right now. But I'm experiencing more time freedom. I am able to do things this year that I haven't really had capacity for. And before we hit record, we talked about my blog, my
Mhm.
stupid blog. When I first started my business, I knew the power of SEO. I went all in with the blog. I was nobody. And that thing has gained me so much traction. I think one of my top blogs is about niches for virtual assistants. I get 7,000 hits a month, right?
Gosh.
We can talk about my conversion later, maybe off the, but, I have people interested in researching. I have a lot of that
Mhm.
early buyer, content. And so I went all in with the blog and it just fell apart because I didn't have the right person managing. It wasn't something I could keep up. It is very time consuming, even with AI. The formatting of things, like making sure like the calls to action are right,
Mhm.
that you're
And the quality.
yeah, the quality, the click-through activity is very important
Yeah.
on a blog,
Yeah.
and it's not just like a VA who doesn't know your business just can't come in and decide that, and so I finally made a good hire and we're making progress, and I've always had such resentment. I'm like, "Why are we not moving forward?" And I just haven't had the right person, but I also needed to make it a priority. So that's one thing. I hired a new work group manager who really gets it, who can kind of combine the need for engagement, community marketing with being systematic,
Mhm.
so like that has really freed up time and I've been able to pull out of that. And what have I been able to do with that time is finally pitch myself and get on media and get on more podcasts and get some features. And that has held me back so much coming from a PR background and not feeling like I was ready enough or had the numbers enough. And it was really a time thing because not everything can be a priority. And so, with the right people on my team, I have been able to offload big chunks of marketing. And I'm so ready to offload almost the entire marketing department on some days and focus on things that will just increase my visibility and get me more leads. So, that was a long answer, but I feel like I'm allowed to, not allowed. I almost get to choose what I work on every day because I'm not stuck in the nitty gritty and the weeds of this membership, which is like so much like Susie needs access to this, and this person wants to cancel, and this person says this document's missing. And, it's like all these like little things build up and just eat at your time. And if you have the right people in place who can offload that, it's amazing. It's like this whole, I'm like getting over the mountain to a whole nother side of business. And I know new level, new devil,
Mhm.
right? But at least I'm like conquering this first one.
Yeah. Do you think that that will increase the capacity for the course?
Yeah, and I think I'll be able to launch twice now. Like I told you, I went back down to one. I have another new person in that course who has really helped me systematize like what does this look like? Cuz I said we're like very high touch. And so we've got it all ironed out. I have this beautiful Asana board. All I have to do is duplicate and it's how I want it.
Mhm.
I'm not like counting on someone to read my mind. And now I think we'll be able to do that. I actually am going to experiment with maybe a different kind of container for that and maybe
Mhm.
more of an accelerator. And I will have the capacity to do that. I've just been so maxed out. And with the right help, I'm going to be able to bust my revenue goals. It might not be this year for personal reasons and just things going on. I feel like this is a year where we're kind of nailing some things down, like the clockwork style, but I feel like I'm really preparing myself for 2025, which I kind of keep saying every year, like next year, but I actually mean it. I've gone through a lot of evolution, so I mean it.
I mean, and it sounds like you have meant it because every year there's been another level up. There's been another discovery. There's been another change, right? Because
Yeah.
we work in cycles, not linear. So it's not like we're trying to get to some mythical destination because it doesn't exist. right? Because like you said, it's new level, new devil. Well, if it was a finality sort of destination, then that wouldn't happen. So
Yeah.
instead, it's like, oh, okay, we're over this arc. Oh, okay, now here's another arc. Now here's another arc, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's exciting when you start to get ideas and know that, like, I could actually do that. Maybe
Hmm.
there is a book in me. I mean, the thing I've been dragging my feet on has been this evergreen webinar,
Okay.
just wanting to
Yeah.
have a sales mechanism for my self-study course because there are people
Okay.
who are ready to go now and I have
Mhm.
got nothing. And this has been a goal of mine, but I just haven't. I've been figuring out some of the messaging in the audience, but I haven't been able to tackle that. So imagine when I get that in place and like just everything is starting to point to the right direction. But I had to go through this and it wasn't, this is why that whole course membership thing is such like, such a bait and swap here because it just doesn't happen overnight. You have to figure out the order of things and I'm not being very clear right now, but I think given time, like you kind of figure out what your audience actually needs and then build it. Like I started more on the side of this is what I'm going to do and kind of force it to work. And so I have had to kind of just massage it along the way, both the membership and the course.
Yep, yep, and that's what a lot of people do because, well, I mean, we get excited, which is, no big deal, but then we also whenever we're in these heightened stages of emotion, positive, negative, neutral, but these heightened state of emotions, then we're more prone to the messages that we see, right?
Yeah.
And so then they'll hit us in these ways and be like, "Oh, okay. Oh, well then that's it. Oh, okay. Well then I have to do it." And anytime you hear like words like the way to do it or only, those that is just marketing BS. It's a way, it's an option. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So it's kind of like you can still do it. And if you look at I'll call it a DIY, right? But your evergreen option for the course. So you can still do your live launch once or twice, and that will probably come with. I'm just guessing here, but I'm going to assume that's going to come with like the coaching capacities and the communities and all those kind of add-ons. Yeah. That the human
Mhm.
interaction and support.
Yeah.
Whereas this other one is going to be the at your own pace, the on demand, the take it whenever you need it. We're here for you. Here's the core consumption. So the work group can still benefit both,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And you can also have it where people can add on the community whenever it's during a live launch as well. So the people who bought the DIY can come in just for that part if they now need to ask questions or do this or that, but they're not stuck with whatever the pace is of the information if you have the community container to handle that. Otherwise, then the appropriate is for them to go straight into the workbook because you know that they have that base knowledge
Mhm.
and now they're in the right community container. Yeah, which also means that you can close it to anybody who doesn't have this base knowledge, and the prerequisite is the base knowledge, whether it was during a live launch or during a DIY, evergreen consumption
Exactly.
model, right? And that's how they feed each other.
Yeah, what you don't see is all the iterations I've gone through to get here, just for anyone listening. Like, I did have this, like, open-ended Facebook group for a long time, and I had to make a big decision to shut that down.
Yeah.
It was draining me to have people just kind of constantly stuck there, and so there's been many different
Was
iterations,
that paid or free?
and it wasn't ongoing paid. It was like almost like an alumni group. I think we've had some
Okay.
friends like have
Okay.
an alumni group and seen some shut down too. But I had to go through these iterations, and I like what you said about how I can find ways to add the community to support because that's really what
Mhm.
I'm doing. There is always an option to come back and join the live group. I mean, there always is. I think I also kind of had to prove the self study model, and I've had people buy successfully, go through it and have success and book clients, then come into the work group and book a client within a week. So I've seen that, but I've also, Tracy, I've seen people buy it and then never do anything with it. And I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
some of that too is like detaching my, personal meaning to that
Yep.
because it's hard. It's a doozy of a course. And some people, no offense, are very flaky when it comes to side hustles and ideas and things they're going to try and start. And so it's a little bit of the nature of my audience. And so that's one thing I've been kind of fleshing out. And I have proved it successful. And I needed that. Like I needed that proof in order to go market it correctly and feel good about it because last thing I want to do is be one of those like start a side hustle and get paid to whatever, and and be one of those VA coaches. So I was being very diligent here, and I want it to be accurate, and
Mhm,
not inflated numbers and like false promises. And
mhm,
so I have proved it. I've gotten there. And I also had to have the team in place. I'm saying it's almost like a gift from God, like going through the team part of this at the same time and ironing out that, because I don't think we could have handled self-study students by the masses last year. They would have fallen through the cracks. They would have fallen through the cracks because I did not have the right people on board and the people who were aware to catch it and do something about it. And
mhm.
that is one of my biggest fears. I am so afraid, Tracie, of being so out of touch with my community, having someone DM me and me not know who they are. And it's one of my paid students, because that has happened to me. I have paid what felt like a fortune to be in a big email copywriters group, to have her like look at me like, who are you, in person,
Mm.
and in DMs. And that is like the worst feeling. And so me getting a hand of onboarding and our client board and like just treating people as humans and not numbers is one of my core values that I'm working out. It's not in a fancy mission statement, but that is what's been going on in the background, is how can I make this high touch and feel good and not lose my people? But I also need to train them not to DM me billing questions.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, right? Yeah, it's like there's a place for this and there's a place for that.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's just showing, how deep that you care. But to what you were saying about there's sometimes that people just won't ever do anything with it.
yeah,
There is only so far that your responsibility goes with that.
yeah,
And we can look back at our own behavior to kind of help ground us and remind us of that. Because think about a time when you wanted to get something done and you thought that this one product, this one offer, this one thing was the answer until you got into it and you realized it wasn't. And not from the sense of, oh shit, false promises, right? Because that would be on them and negative selling behavior. But in the
yeah,
terms of, oh, I didn't quite understand my question, my problem, my etc. Now I'm
yeah,
seeing that this isn't what I want to do. This isn't the answer that I was looking for,
right.
right? So now I'm going to try and go look something else. I now have more knowledge as a buyer, so I'm going to be a bit more careful, but it was no fault of the seller in this case. This was just me not quite understanding what it was I was after and the solution that I needed, right? So
Yeah,
there will always be a piece of that. There will always be, I think this is it's like to put it into something kind of silly. Think about it like a blouse that you really really want and you're like, "Oh my gosh, when I have this shirt, I can show up to any brunch and not care. I can go from like taking the kids somewhere to seeing, that catty mom in the carpool lane and being like, "Up yours, lady. Look at me today." Right? And you finally get it and you're like, "Oh, I am magic." And then you see yourself in like that one warped window, that you walk past and you're like, "I look so dumb. I look like I took something out of my 15-year-old's closet. What am I doing? What am I wearing?" Right?
trying
And
too hard.
yes, and it's like, "Okay, I just know better next time." And we
Yeah,
do that ourselves, but it feels harder than it does returning a shirt because it's software, it's a course, it's a membership, it's a program, it's something we're doing for our businesses, right? It's something
mm,
we're doing for self-improvement. It's something that we're doing to try to, you know, there's a bit of pride, there's a bit of proving, there's a bit of yes, we can make this work attached to it. So it has a heavier weight than it does. It would almost be as if you wore that to like a first time meeting the in laws situation instead of instead of carpool, uh, kind of heaviness to it where you're like, oh gosh, okay, yeah, this feels way seriouser than it would have under a different situation, right? Books that you randomly picked up at Target.
yeah. I've had a couple people, and my refund policy is like, watch module 1. And if it's not the right fit, like, you will know. You will know
Mhm.
hands down. We don't even need to get into the tech and more of the marketing strategies, because I really break it down. And I almost wonder if I should pull a little bit more of that out in my pre-launch. I think that would help
Yeah.
with like graduation rates. And I'm not saying don't have a lot of like refund requests at all, but there are people who don't always move forward.
Mhm.
And so I let those people off, no problem. But I think there's something funny in this online space to bring it back where this like they think it's going to be so easy.
Yep.
And it depends where you're starting from. Even my friends who come from corporate marketing don't really understand online business and
Yep.
how to serve these type of clients. But the cool thing is once you put in the work, you will be able to go into any business and think. And then that's where you make money, right? And
Yeah.
so that's really what I'm empowering you to do. And we're going to get all of this like groundwork in place so you don't just show up like you're not just going to be the data entry VA over here. You're the thinker and you're the doer and you're the strategist. So you're going to be so much more than a VA. And then I was watching my competitor, Don't Tattle on Me. I actually sent my teammate to watch her webinar. And I was like, what are her points? Literally, Tracie, just give up 3 hours of Netflix and you can become a virtual assistant. And I'm like, that crap. And I know she must be having problems. We could see the comments, but is that crap? No, it's not just like giving up 3 hours of Netflix and then you'll be successful. So I really try to hone in on this. And this has come with my messaging evolution. It
Mhm.
isn't easy to be a freelancer. It isn't.
Mm-mm.
I mean, but the payoff is great when you can take the summer off, when you can take Fridays off and play pickleball, when you can go to the orthodontist with your child or your teammate can cover your work group networking event for you. Like it's amazing what it does for me, right? To bring
Yeah.
it back to that question. But I'm just laughing at these online promises. Like people
Yeah.
show up on TikTok and make it sound like you can be a $75 an hour VA. Like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is where we get to differentiate ourselves with integrity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. So you were talking about, see, you mentioned TikTok, you mentioned podcast, you mentioned the course, you meant like where all the things, like where all do we get to find you and follow you and hear you and help these conversion rates?
Oh my gosh, thank you. I have my own podcast, Unicorns Unite. You've been on it with a very successful podcast about an episode about discovery calls. I teach marketing services. We talk to other experts, learn from freelancers what they've learned. So that's Unicorns Unite on all the apps. And then you can find me on Instagram. I'm having the most fun. Occasionally I play on TikTok. I'm not consistent. I did get to 1,000 people, followers,
Oh,
but I'm so not consistent over there. And then I have a free Facebook group too that's still growing. And if you want to continue the conversation, that's a really good place to hang out and keep talking about it. So thank you for having me. This has been
yeah,
so
of course.
fun. And I feel like it's like slight coaching session,
I know it
planning
was
session.
completely accidental, but
Yeah, I was like not sure where I was gonna go. We went a little bit deep on the membership and the messaging,
yeah.
but this was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good, good. Well, thank you. Yeah, and all of your links will be in the show notes, of course. And I'm happy to have you. And you can always come back again, and we can hang out and see what else we end up talking about, right?
Oh my God, I didn't even say if you want to work with someone from our work group, hireaunicorn.com is where I share your jobs. So if you want to tap into the work group, we have assistants, specialists, managers, launch managers, podcast managers, graphic designers. We have a lot of smart unicorns over there. So I'll be happy to share your job. That helps me out the most, honestly.
I
Thank you,
love it. I
Tracie.
love it. Of course, of course. And until next time. Thank you for joining me here in Cocktails, Coffee, and Conversations. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links mentioned today. And while you're there, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. And if you have a topic or question you want me to answer, I want to hear it. Head to traciepatterson.com/AMA and ask me anything about business. If I don't know it, I'll bring it up with one of my guests. Until next week, be well and have some fun.